All right, Nick. Another Chatterbox Reds edition. Reds Trail. Reds Trail. Not the best day to be a Cincinnati sports fan.
Anything else going on?
Yeah, I'd say there's some other stuff going on.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing it's football season. The Reds are dead, so.
You couple in the fact that the Bearcats are. If you're a Bearcat fan, a Bengal fan, and a Reds fan, today is not a great day. Today's not a great day.
Yeah, I mean, it really just sucks more than anything because the Atlanta Braves decided to absolutely just shit the bed Miami this weekend. Like, this will be a lot easier to stomach if, the Braves had won one game.
Well, it's more than just a one game race now.
But you're left on left.
I didn't see the final pitch. You must be ahead of me.
Do you want to sync up?
No, I don't think so. See, here's the comments. Here's what I don't understand. Like, I get Robert. Like Robert, you say you're not upset at Belly. Starting pitching's not good. Like, I understand, and it's not great. I get that, but like, the Reds have scored 4 runs today, and they were horrifically defensively. I mean, at some point, the position players have to step up around here. Like, it just can't be. It can't be win 3-2, 4-3, and the bullpen has 7 shutout innings of baseball. Like, it's not sustainable. At some point, this Reds offense, and I know somebody in the chat or somebody in the comments, they'll always be like, well, the Reds are scoring some runs. They scored 4 today. They scored 5 the other day. They scored, like, okay, well, when was the last time they scored more than 6 runs? Nick's checking the schedule now. It feels like they've scored. It feels like they've scored 6 runs like once every. I mean, they've scored. And
Tuesday.
Again, this isn't me looking, but like, have they scored 6 runs more than 2 times in the last 30 days?
Yeah, they scored the day before.
So they scored 6 runs back-to-back days, and then after that,
scored
it's bad.
7 in the finale against the Cardinals, 6 the next game.
All right, well, they lost today. 8-4. All right, we'll do a show, though, because we do them all, baby. We do them all, We do them all. All right, welcome into another Chatterbox Reds edition. This is a losing edition where the Metropolitans from New York, they defeat the Cincinnati Reds 8-4. Nick, before we get started, I do want to make sure from a podcast perspective that the sounds are accurate. We're getting some people in the chat telling me to turn my microphone up. which I can do that. I just don't want to get too loud and too hot, and then all of a sudden have a whole entire podcast where Nick Kirby's just foaming at the mouth because my microphone's absolutely in shambles. So if the chat could help me out, if that's loud enough or you think that's good, give me a quick little yes or no or where we're at with that. Nick, do a sound check real fast.
Check 1 2 check.
All right, I think you're good. All right. I think we should save some of this stuff for the show because this is one of those shows where this isn't like, hey, let's make it a quick show just because the Reds lost and we're all sad about it. This show may last 30 minutes. This show may last an hour and a half. I don't know how these go. It's not pre-planned. This isn't pre-scripted. But I do want to save some of this stuff for the show. So before I get into anything like too heavy or things that are weighing on my mind, I'd prefer to go just quickly through the box score recap here, Nick, if you're ready for that. And as always, the box score recap is presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Nick, take it away.
All right, go through the box score recap. Got a lot of notes here. Sorry if you actually watched the game, but I'm assuming a few people might have chose some other sporting events for some reason. So I'll run through it all. Top of the first, Reds jumped out to an early lead, believe it or not. Senzel, Stevenson, and Marte all singled. Marte's was the RBI, 1-0 Cincinnati. Brandon Williamson pitched around runners in the first and second innings, but the first two batters reached base in the bottom of the third, putting runners on the corners. Williamson then struck out Ronnie Mauricio, and then he got Pete Alonso to pop out, looking really good. He walked Lindor during that plate appearance. Tyler Stevenson did make a really nice stop on a pitch that bounced in front of the plate to save a run. But, of course, the next batter, Stevenson could not stop another wild pitch, tied the game at 1, and then Francisco Alvarez doubled home 2 runs, 3-1 Mets. Brandon Williamson did get through another jam in the 4th inning. Shaky defense in that inning as well, but his day was done. 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Top of the 5th, Nick Senzel crushed a solo home run, 420 feet, number 12 on the year, as Senzel just continues to absolutely crush left-handed pitching. Bottom of the 5th, Reds went to Carson Spires. He should have got out of the inning. The ball bounced off CES. CES playing first base on Sunday. Steer made a great play backing him up, but then CES put his head down for a second, getting obviously upset at himself that he didn't make the play, and that was just enough time for Jeff McNeil to beat the throw out from Steer after replay overturned the call. And you guessed it, the next batter singled home a run, 4-2 Mets. Carson Spires, he pitched pretty well, all things considered, but his worst throw of the day was on himself. A comebacker to the mound in the 7th inning should have been an easy double play. Instead, the ball sailed into the outfield, and the Mets poured it on. A CES 2-run home run in the 8th would make the final score a little more respectable, but Reds fall 8-4 your final. Reds are 5-2 in their last 7 games, and got absolutely no help from I don't have the scoreboard, but they got no help from the Braves. The Braves got swept by the Miami Marlins. After they clinched their title, they just decided to go down to Miami and not give a crap about that series. So Reds are a half game behind the Marlins as we speak. Diamondbacks and Cubs playing later tonight. Giants up 5-0. Looks like they make it out of Colorado with a win. That's where we're at.
Listen, the Brave situation's tough. The Marlins, oddly enough, the team that I really of all the teams that I was worried about, that was the last on the list. It's starting to look like that should be first on the list now. I don't know. I just feel like if the Reds would have taken care of business, and they did,
they went 5-2 this week.
They did. I mean, they took care of business, man. They did what we all asked. And they do still sit in a good position. Let's not act like they're not in a good spot, okay? Because yes, the Marlins obviously are playing well, but the Cubs are back in it now. That's the caveat, right? Okay, so now instead of a 1-team, a 1-spot race, it's a 2-team, 2-spot race. Like it or not, I don't know if you love that or if you hate it, but the Chicago Cubs and the Arizona Diamondbacks, you hold a tiebreaker over, right? And then from there, clearly the Marlins is the last team we want to have any kind of tie with because they hold, I think, all the tiebreakers. It seems like
I mean, with them sweeping the Braves, they have to have clinched that.
They clinched that. That's over. So the Marlins, they hold every tiebreaker known to man, and here we sit. The most difficult part of this, you have a B will concern with the question mark. I don't know. I mean, is it more concern or is it just the reality of the situation? How long can we go, Nick, where we ask these guys that before the year started we would laugh to say they were going to come in and throw more than 2 or 3 have 2 or 3 major league starts, and now we're relying on them in the middle of a pennant race? Like that's exactly where we are now. I don't know. I don't want to be a pushover or sound like a pushover. I just give all of these guys all the slack in the world. I just do. Brandon Williamson, we'll see. I don't know. I'm more concerned. I guess if concerned, I'm not just concerned about Brandon Williamson. I'm concerned about the whole entire staff. Now that Graham Ashcraft's done for the year, like, what do you have left? Like, I laugh because it's sad and true. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, Nick, but it's like, what is there that they could take away now? And I know you shouldn't poke the bear because there's certainly more that can go wrong, but it's like, what more could possibly go wrong from an injury related standpoint and a COVID related standpoint than what's happened to the Cincinnati Reds? I don't know, man.
Yeah, Williamson's in a tough spot. I mean, it really stinks because he was just on such an incredible roll. They went on the COVID IL, came back. I don't know if it's fatigue. I don't know if like it is with Abbott. It doesn't feel like as much like Abbott. I don't know if it's just rust because the guy didn't pitch for a couple weeks. I don't know if it's just regression. It's probably a little bit of all three, right? I mean, it just, you kind of get all those 3 wrapped into one, and that's kind of what you got. Was also, though, a couple pitches away from a completely different outing.
It was.
And so it's kind of, I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it. His next start's against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Look, this Mets team came in playing really well. And you know what? We better hope to God they play well because they play 6 games against the Marlins. So, you know what? If you really wanted optimistic, maybe the Reds got the Mets going a little bit. Keep it going, boys.
Well, they were playing well before the Reds played them. They took they took 2 or 3 from the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, they were 8-5 coming in.
Yeah.
So,
second highest OPS in the month. Mets are playing decent baseball. It's not like they're pushovers, so I don't know.
I mean,
you just never know.
I mean, they do have the highest payroll in the sport.
Yeah, well, you'd think that would help. They got rid of some of that payroll, though, to be fair. It's not that there's nothing to say here, because there are things to talk about that are interesting. I mean, you just get into this lineup, and the other thing about Brandon Williamson and the staff in general is if you can't catch the ball, these guys aren't good enough to get you out of holes. They're just not. You can't expect Brandon Williamson to go out and get 4 outs 2 different times, or you expect Spears to be able to go out and get 4 outs 1 inning, and it's a recipe for disaster. We all know that. Today was not winning baseball in any form or fashion, no matter how you want to dice it up, split it up. It just felt gross because there was some plays that they got away with too, right? I mean, obviously the ball to CES, that's a ball that should be caught, and not only that, then he felt sorry for himself. He started to pout, and then didn't realize that Steer had to play on the ball, so he didn't get a chance to obviously make a full stretch. If he does do that, he's probably out. There just was not much. There's not a whole lot of winning baseball outside of Joey Votto. There's not a ton of production at the plate. I don't know. Hopefully, this offense, and I'm just begging. I know. I'm sitting here sounding like a broken record, and people are like, "Well, the offense hasn't been that bad." And you can pull out a stat to prove me otherwise. Just when I watch these games, this offense has not taken pressure off of this pitching staff at all. We've not jumped out to a 3-4, 5-0 lead early in games where you can kind of relax a little bit. And if, for instance, if Williamson has a guy on first and third with one out or nobody out, instead of it feeling like, hey, you got to figure a way out to strand both of these guys, to like, okay, let's just give up one. We can give up one. Or maybe if it's a guy on second and third with one out, it just doesn't feel like we're in a position right now like we were earlier this year, right? Earlier this year, it felt like, hey, we give up 2 runs in a spot. Who cares? Like, we're going to score and come back and win. It doesn't feel like that right now. Having said all that, am I overly concerned? That's why I said, is this going to be a 30-minute show or an hour-and-a-half show? I don't know. I'm not. They're winning baseball games. They went 5-2. If they go 5-2 every single week the rest of the way out and they don't make the playoffs, then whatever. It's the way it was supposed to go down. It's the way it's supposed to go down. The fact that they lost ground in this series is a joke. It is. The Braves were playing the Marlins, and the Reds were playing the Mets. And if you told me the Reds were going to win 2 games, I'd say, okay, they're going to get at least a game. And they just didn't get any. In fact, they lost one.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, the Reds are only a half game back. And we were in a spot going into Tuesday night where the Reds were 1 loss and another win away from someone else of falling to 3 games back. So, I mean, yeah, it feels a little deflating because of what the Marlins did this weekend, but still, I mean, it was an incredible week for the Reds. They did get help, and the Giants were a team that I was really getting nervous about because I saw, kind of the way their Fangraphs odds were trending. You didn't have the tiebreaker with them. You started looking a little bit deeper at them, and thankfully they just absolutely crapped all over the bed in Colorado outside of this finale, and that really, I think, helped the Reds a lot. So I don't know. It's a day-to-day thing. I mean, at this point, it's you can't predict baseball over small samples. Baseball,
no, you can't.
That's why you play a 162 game season. So many of these things level out. What's going to happen over the next 11 games? Who knows? I mean, it's really, really hard to predict. What I will say about the offense, to more to your point, I don't think today I really take much out of it. Jose Quintana's a pitcher that's really good. I mean, the guy's got an ERA of 3.02. The Reds had 8 hits. They had a lot of hard hit balls. I'm a little bit more concerned that the Reds faced bad pitchers on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Friday, on Saturday. And yeah, some of those games they were okay, but they didn't have one game that they just really destroyed any of those pitchers. And that's maybe the one thing that I would be a little bit more concerned about. Not as much concerned about today. And one other thing, and we'll get into that when we talk about Renfroe and Bader a little bit later on. Reds don't face a lefty all week unless something changes. They're going to face 6 straight right-handed pitchers. I think this lineup right now is definitely a lot better against right-handed pitchers than lefties because of the guys that are struggling are all the platoon guys on the other end. So I think that's a positive here going forward this week.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, listen, Harrison Bader's a guy that I was excited to get. I thought that he could be a spark plug. I don't know enough about cars, but I'm sure there's a good analogy. He's been the opposite of a spark plug. Defensively, I still think there's some merit there. He can provide value to this team. Hunter Renfroe's a guy, if he can't hit, he's got no value. He's got no value. If Hunter Renfroe cannot hit the baseball, he provides me 0 value. The play he made today in right field, Renfroe, is just a disgusting play. Now, I know the sun looked like the sun was causing some problems out there in right field, so I don't want to be overly critical of Renfroe. But anytime an outfielder is looking at the second baseman, begging for them to catch the ball, and then staring at them, it just tells me there's 0 confidence in their defensive abilities that they have internally. They're hoping somebody else makes the play instead of going and make it themselves. Now, again, to be fair, maybe you can convince me he just couldn't see the ball, but that was a disgusting act of basically defensive assignments when it comes to what I would assume Renfroe should be doing. Moving forward, though, Nick, I feel good. Listen, like it or not, as long as things don't go crazy south, we are going to be in this thing all the way up until the very end. All the way up until the very end. The Reds have a chance. And there's a lot of teams that are stacked up there right at the top that you could say have a chance to get that final spot or maybe the final 2 spots at this point. The Cubs are in a position now where they've of all the teams that we want to sit here and if you want to feel like, not sorry is not the right word, but like if you're feeling self-pity right now because of the Reds losing today, the Cubs are shit in the bed. And I know this is a kid show, but excuse my language. Like that is something to be very upset about, is what the Cubs have been doing. The Reds have been playing good baseball. It's just unfortunate that we as fans, I feel like, are forecasting the fact that we just think that the names on the back of the uniform are going to pan themselves out eventually. And the Reds have guys with the names on the back of their uniform that are coming out of the bullpen and are starting games for us that we don't trust. That's the real frustration, I feel like, as Reds fans, is that you got a guy in, Spears is throwing 3-4 innings today. You're going to have guys like, and no offense to Connor Phillips and Ben Lively and all these other guys, like that's who you're relying on in big-time games down the stretch. And it's just not very settling. However, and I don't mean to be a pushover, folks, but the fact is this is September 17th, and the Reds are right there. You can't have it both ways. Again, I'm not doing the same song and dance I've done 1,000 times, Nick, but let's just be honest with ourselves for half a second. This team, in a way, doesn't deserve, based off of probably overall the talent level that they have on their team right this second, to even be anywhere remotely close to where they're at. So I'm going to take it with a little grain of salt. I'm going to move on. And I'd love for Renfroe and Bader to step up, but it just doesn't seem like that's been the case or going to be the case anytime soon.
I'll say something that if you've watched this show 151 times this year, you probably would be surprised at. I think the Reds should probably DFA Hunter Renfroe. I think I've seen enough. I think it was a good move to pick him up, especially with how many injuries the Reds had at that moment. But you're about to face 7 right-handed pitchers. I just don't see the value that he has. I still believe in Harrison Bader. He actually has more splits towards hitting left-handed pitching over a period of time that I think he still has a chance to be productive. And obviously he has that value defensively. But yeah, I think I've seen enough of Hunter Renfroe. I think you just suck it up. You eat that $2 million. It was a smart move. It was a good job by the Reds to take that risk. But I think you DFA him and you bring an extra pitcher up, because I know there was a lot of discussion about, well, the Reds just gave that game away today by pitching Carson Spires. But Derek Lowe had to close a game yesterday. You can't be burning relievers when your win probability is that low, when you're down 2 runs and you had to use Derek. Like, you can't waste these guys in that spot. But if you have an extra reliever, you can start doing a little bit more of that. And you're going to have to get a little bit more aggressive with your bullpen the further we get along in this, and the more these games, I mean, they all mean a lot now, but you know, when they start really, you start having to really be life or death on an individual night. So I think it's time to pull the plug on Renfroe.
That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to be upset about that. I do see people saying DFA Bader. Listen, Bader defensively offers something at the end of games that you're going to want to have, period. And then secondarily to that, he offers the opportunity to pinch run. So, yes, he might not be getting it done at the plate, but he offers enough outside of the just what he does at the plate to deserve a roster spot. Everybody in the chat, and I think a lot of people are saying, well, what about this guy? What about this guy? You know, you're only picking on Bader, you're only picking on, you know, whoever else. You know, maybe it was Votto for a minute. I was picking on him. Like, when I say the offense, I'm picking on everybody, man. Like, it's a collective thing. There's been a lot of folks that have not played good baseball. Elly De La Cruz is at the very top of that list. He's at the very top of that list. As much as and I still like Elly De La Cruz, and as much as I can appreciate the talent that he is, I'm all well aware of the production that he's producing right now, and it's not good. But I'd also like to proclaim that a lot of the reason I think that this offense feels stagnant, feels like it's just not the same anymore, is because TJ Friedel isn't on base stealing bags, not bunting for hits with guys on base. Anytime that Ellie De La Cruz gets on base, it offers an opportunity for this team to manufacture runs in ways in which they don't usually manufacture runs. And unfortunately, it's feast or famine with Ellie. If he gets on with nobody out, there's a good chance he finds a way to steal second, and then all of a sudden you got a guy at second with nobody out. But when you strike out 3 times a game, it's tough. It's also hard to utilize all of your talents when you strike out as much as Ellie's been striking out. If Ellie could roll over a ground ball in the hole and beat it out, that's what he was doing a little bit earlier this year. I think Ellie's just completely in his head. I really do. I don't. And that's to happen to young players. I'm not making excuses for him, but he's just all up in his head. And if he could just relax and go play baseball again, I think it'd get a lot better for him. So Reds aren't dead. This isn't time to hit a panic button by any stretch of the imagination. This team's done everything we could possibly ask them to do. And I feel like we're still in a pretty damn good spot, Nick.
Yeah. I think mention, Nick Senzel is just absolutely crushing left-handed pitching, which is also why I think it makes Renfroe even more expendable. Because remember, when the Reds picked up Renfroe, I think Senzel had only been back for like a week. So, and I think just all those reasons make you feel better about that. But CES, look, I know it was a garbage time home run today, and I know he made the bad play in the field, but he's looking good. He's got to be in the lineup every day. I don't care how you get him in the lineup. He's got to be in the lineup each of the last 11 games of the year. I don't see a reason you can sit him. You need that power. No one else really is providing that power right now outside of Spencer Steer maybe. Yep. Like, you have to have someone that can hit the ball at the ballpark. You got 6 games of Great American Ballpark. CES needs to be in the lineup every single day. There's no excuses otherwise.
I agree. I'd rather die on the hill with CES in the lineup than Hunter Renfroe any day of the week, just because, again, not to get overly conscious of the future, but I'd like for these guys that we are going to have around play baseball games when it matters, like it or not. I'm not suggesting that I want to throw Ellie out there no matter what, just because you've said it before. You're okay with splitting Ellie for the last 10 games of the season if that's what it takes to try to make the postseason. Of course, that makes perfect logical sense. But again, I have a hard time believing that CES shouldn't be in the lineup. He's the one guy I'd say you got to give him a chance. Not to get on the too like into the weeds here really quickly, but did you think the decision to hit TJ Friedel today instead of Benson was surprising, I guess is the word I'm looking for? Because just because Benson runs into one, he hits a big time home run. Next thing you know, you're right back in the game. Or do you just think that the fact that David Bell clearly just trusts TJ Friedel a little bit more to put the ball in play and get a hit? I don't know.
It was a little bit, at first I was kind of like taken back because I just felt like the David Bell playbook all season would have been bringing your power guy in that spot.
Right.
But does Friedel have more home runs than Benson?
Well, Friedel's played a lot more games. I mean, if you're gonna go by that, then divide how many at bats he's had by how many home runs.
Yeah. I mean, he's got 14 home runs in 450 to 10 and 257. So it's not necessarily like this giant. Will Benson has so much more power than TJ Friedel. I think, and I mean, again, a double in that spot ties the ball game, right? So because there was runners on the corner, so. TJ's been swinging the bat really, really well. And again, I've said it a million times. There's a lot more that goes into these matchups than just this guy and his platoon splits. There might have been something about that particular guy's pitch mix that they like TJ Friedel as a better matchup than Will Benson. I'm sure they had all kinds of data on that went into that decision. I didn't have an issue with it. It didn't work. Will Benson struck out with the bases loaded last night in a big spot. So, I mean,
right.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It just kind of is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think it's a huge deal. I mean, I just don't. I did think they were going to bring Will Benson in. I was just curious what your opinion was, and it was just strictly of the fact that I thought Will Benson had a chance to run into a baseball, and TJ Friedel, I mean, as much as I love the guy, no one's going to convince me that he has the same power that Will Benson has. It's just not going to it's just not going to happen. Doesn't mean TJ Friedel couldn't hit a double like you said and tied the game up. So I'll use that as the point that I'm satisfied with, I guess. But it's not the reason this team did not win today. This team has to catch the ball better. They just have to catch the ball better. They got to find a way to get on base and create more scoring opportunities. And the other thing I'll say too, like, they just have not come up with the big time hit, right? They've not come up with the really big time hit in some of these spots where they could get 6, 7, 8 runs in a game. Bader had a chance to get a big time hit. He didn't get it. And then obviously Friedel had a chance to get a big time hit. He didn't get it. And the Reds fall. So I think you just keep it moving, figure out what's next. MILB, how much season's left? How much season's left, Nick? Can't be a whole lot left here.
Well, Double-A, the Lookouts start the postseason on Thursday. So they're in the playoffs. They qualify by winning the first half title. So they'll be placing the Tennessee Smokies. That's the Cubs Double-A affiliates. That'll be fun. Cool to see Edwin Arroyo getting to play in some, playoff games. I think that'll be interesting. Could be cool to see Chase Petty get to make probably a couple starts in a playoff game. So I think that'll be interesting. Excited about that. Reds are off that day too, so that's cool that the first game is the day the Reds are off. So I'll be dialed into that for sure. But yeah, and then the Bats. So this is their final week, and I believe they're at home for their final week.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Reds have everything in front of them. They have everything in front of them. There's really nothing that they lost during this trip. There's nothing they lost. I mean, they could have lost it. If we're being honest, they could have lost it. They've played pretty good baseball. Are we asking for a lot right now? Maybe. Are we asking for a miracle? I don't think we're asking for a miracle to make the postseason. I mean, do I think it's likely? Probably not likely. But again, it just feels like if this team can just... And you know what's sad? The more I talk, the more I think of this. It comes down to the guys that have just been absolute horrible. It comes down to Elly De La Cruz. I hate to say that. People aren't going to like me for saying it, but if Elly De La Cruz gets back to that guy that he was for the first 2 weeks, and maybe he'll never be that guy again, and that would be a damn shame, wouldn't it? But I don't think that's the case. I think that he's just in his own little head for a minute, and he's a young kid, and somehow if he can get lucky and run into 2 baseballs and they go out of the ballpark, his brain function tells him that he's good at baseball again, and he starts playing at the level that I think he's capable of playing. My best guess is, and this is just my own stereotypical thoughts when it comes to players I've played with before, the most talented players that I've ever played with, all of them, every single one of them, had a relatively weak mental game than some of the other players that were a little undersized and had to bust their ass their whole life to be relatively good. I'm not suggesting that Elly hasn't worked hard or anything like that, but I think some guys just rely on their sheer God-given talents to get themselves through, and then at some point, as always, it took Elly all the way until the big leagues, until you get hit in the face with reality of struggle and strife and all of the things that baseball will eventually bring, and it depends on how you handle it, and I don't think Elly's handled it all that well, and he's 21 years old. But I think there's a chance that those players also have a chance to get reminded that they're good at baseball again, and their brain tells them that, hey, I'm good at baseball. Remember how cocky Elly was when he first came up? Remember how he would act? I want to get him back to that. I know some of you are turned off by that. Somebody needs to remind him, hey, man, you're the best damn player we got on this team. Whether it's true or not, who cares? Just tell them that. That's what I used to do. You just tell guys they're better than maybe you even think they are. It doesn't matter because they need to hear it. Somebody needs to tell them. Somebody should just go to Elly and say, listen, man, this is baseball. How much money you got in your bank account, brother? He's going to say, I got whatever. I'm like, yeah, you're rich. You're rich, man. You remember when you played on them dirt fields back there when you were thinking about trying to make the major leagues and you were poor? Like, you're rich. What are you worried about? Go out there and just have fun. Bust their ass. I don't know. Maybe it would work. Maybe it wouldn't. But somebody's going to have to pick this pitching staff up because this pitching staff, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to tell you until you're blue in the face. It ain't going to hold up, people. It ain't going to hold up. We're going to have to start winning games 8-7. That's just what's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, Nick, but that's how I feel.
Now, you ready for some Reds on my LB?
As long as it's presented by Betfred Sportsbook, I am.
You know it is. Cincinnati's premier sportsbook, Betfred Sportsbook. Little Bats got a nice win today, 10-7, despite Lyon Richardson not making it out of the first. He had 37 pitches, so it was just one of those things where he hit that 35, that magic pitch number. The Reds don't let. Probably time to shut Richardson down for the year. My guess is the Reds wanted to keep him as an option, but that's a couple starts where he didn't make it out of the first inning, so that's unfortunate. Stuart Fairchild, though, 2 for 3. I don't know. Watching Hunter Renfroe play, I don't know. I don't think Stuart Fairchild looks all that bad. Jose Barrero, 2 for 4, 16th home run. That's back-to-back days for Barrero with the home run. Kevin Newman was 2 for 5. Newman was batting 7th today, so not sure what the Reds' plan is with Newman the rest of the way. And then Casey Legumina, he did throw a scoreless inning. Lookouts, they lost today 7-4. Really not a whole lot going on this one. Edwin Arroyo 0 for 4. But as mentioned, the Lookouts next game Thursday at 7:15 against the Tennessee Smokies. That's the Cubs AA affiliate. That is the Southern League playoffs. It's a 2-round ordeal. I think it's a best of 3, but it's 2 rounds. And so it'll be cool to see Arroyo, some of the other guys, Chase Petty, play in some postseason ball. Reds Twins tomorrow, Trace, 6:40 on
Love
FS1
that.
if you don't have Bally. So there you go. The Twins, if they held on, they were up like 3-0 on the White Sox. I'm sure they hung on. They're 79-71, so a very similar record to the Reds. But they are on the verge of clinching the AL Central. They had a 6.5 game lead entering today. They are below 500 though, 35-36 on the road. They're 34-36 against teams above 500. They're 4-4 in the last 8 games. Reds will miss Sonny Gray and Pablo Lopez. I'm assuming those are probably the 2 guys they'll start in games 1 and 2 of the playoffs. Old friends Kyle Farmer and Donovan Solano make their returns to Great American Ballpark. Might not start in this series though because they don't typically play against right-handed pitching. Reds, I think, are going to play have all 3 games with righties on the mound. For the Twins, Joe Ryan, another guy pitching well, coming in, 2.75 ERA of his last 4 starts. But he has failed to record an out past the 5th inning in 5 of his last 6 starts. He's had a lot of short starts. Never faced the Reds before. Renfroe, of course, he's 2 for 3 against this guy. Will Benson 0 for 1. That's it. That's seen him. And then Connor Phillips, I'm assuming he's going for the Reds. I don't think the Reds have made an official announcement yet. But the fact that they used Carson Spires today, for several innings makes me think that they're just going to swap those guys out tomorrow. He didn't have to go down for the full 15 days because he was a COVID replacement player. But Phillips, I mean, he's pitched well at times, but 3 home runs and 6 walks in 8 2/3 innings. Got to obviously work on those. Both starts, though, he did make it through 4 innings, so that was good to see. Just more based on if you watch him in the minor leagues, he had a lot of starts where he wasn't, he had some starts where he just didn't get through a couple innings, but he's going to have a tough test. Twins, 5th best weighted runs created plus in Major League Baseball against right-handed pitching. So a tough test for Phillips, but this is a tough series for the Reds.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be series where we look at the starting rotation and we're gonna trick ourselves into thinking that we got good guys going, and those guys are going to be ready for it. This just tells you where you're at. Hunter Green, Brandon Williamson, and Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott and Brandon Williamson are your 2 and 3 right now. What else do you want me to tell you? I mean, those guys, if we're being completely honest, week 2 of the season, 95% of Reds country, no clue who those guys are. No clue. And that's where we're at. I'm not trying to make excuses, okay? That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just telling you the truth. We got to get lucky. We got to get lucky. Somebody has to play above their weight, and it can't. I'm going to say it one more time. It can't continue to be the bullpen. We can't do it, okay? We can't do it. It's like the super wealthy grandpa. It feels like the wealthy grandpa, you've taken advantage of him because you keep asking for money, and he's getting to a point where you're almost making him go broke. Maybe the bullpen can continue to do it, but I don't see it. All right, we got the NL wild card race. We'll touch on that here, final as a reminder, and then we will get to the point where we end this show. So, without further ado, the Marlins, if you didn't see it, they scored 16 runs. That seems like honestly like maybe a week and a half worth of runs for the Reds right now. 16 to the Braves 2. So good job for the Braves. I'm really glad that they could help us out this weekend. Really shout out to them. I'm glad that they enjoyed themselves down there in Miami. That was really nice of them.
Trace, it was the Marlins used their catcher to close the game out. That's how disgraceful of a weekend it was for the Marlins. They used their catcher to get a save. Not a save, but he pitched the 9th inning.
Really quickly, as I run through the scoreboard, I do want to get to something. Giants 9, Rockies 2, bottom 6. So Giants look like what just happened?
Actually, the Rockies just scored 3.
All right, 9-5.
Coors Field. You never know.
Giants 9, Rockies 5. That's bottom 6 still.
Give me 1 second. It is in the top
7. Fair enough. Wait a minute. Okay, they've moved on to the 6, but it was bottom 6 when they scored the 3 runs. All right, you put my brain in a pretzel there for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
All right, Cubs are at Diamondbacks. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind if the Diamondbacks won. I think it'd be funny. I think it'd be funny. Diamondbacks play the Cubs again as a reminder, 7:10. If you're interested in some late night television for baseball, you can get that on the old MLB.TV if you're into that type of thing. Really quickly, just some injury updates for those that are curious. Matt McClain probably not coming back for the rest of the year. Hunter Green obviously is the one guy that's come back and stayed healthy. Everybody else has had something bad happen. Graham Ashcraft, bad. Nick Lodolo, bad. I don't really have an update on anybody else. Nick might in regards to Stuart Fairchild and those types of folks, but it is what it is, chat. We have who we have. This is the guys we got in the bunker. We got to live and die with them. You know what I'm saying? We can't. There's nobody coming in. There's no cavalry coming in to save us. This is what we got. Ain't no more help.
I think you could see tomorrow a couple moves made. Alex Young made a rehab assignment, struck out the side. I know Craig was all over it. There was a report that he was in New York with the team. I guess they decided not to activate him today, but I would assume he probably gets activated. I think they actually might DFA Hunter Renfroe tomorrow, just because you look at who the Reds have coming up. Maybe they get rid of someone else, but I think I think the Reds will make 2 moves tomorrow. I think obviously Phillips for Spires is pretty obvious. I think Alex Young gets activated tomorrow, probably for a position player. And then what the Reds could do, Trace, is they dump a position player this week because they obviously play 6 games this week. Stuart Fairchild's on his rehab assignment. I would be shocked if Stuart Fairchild gets activated before the Guardian series. That's on the 26th, because the Reds have the day off Monday,
right? 2
games against the Guardians, day off Thursday. So the Reds, I don't think you necessarily need to have as many pitchers to get through those 5 games. So I think it would absolutely make sense to dump Renfroe tomorrow. Say thank you very much. Fairchild gets some at bats this week. We're gonna bring you up Tuesday for either platoon role or just as an extra guy on the bench, because we know he has some ways he can help the team with speed and defense and that kind of stuff. So those are the moves that I think might happen tomorrow.
Craig says that McClain's going to take batting practice tomorrow. Let's not rule him out.
Where does he play?
He could play second
talk about-
base. Let's not act like he couldn't play second base. He could play second base. He could play shortstop. What are you kidding? He could play shortstop.
But okay, but again, we're not talking Matt McClain in the middle of July. Yeah,
I understand.
Let's get him
I was
going to
say that.
Like,
yep.
Like, these are really tough decisions for David Bell. So let's just say Matt McClain is available that last week of the season, but Marte has another good week. We have no idea what Matt McClain's going to be able to do just jumping right back into the mix. This is tough. I mean, these are where you have to really try to have an idea and scout what these guys are looking like, taking their batting practice swings and stuff. And
right.
These are tough calls. I can't remember a situation like this where there was just so many players that are like half hurt, half healthy, come back from short rehab assignments. Sometimes you get Jonathan India that comes back and looks great. And it's like, oh yeah, but other times you have guys that come back off injury and it takes them several weeks to get going. Man, it would be a tough call for McClain. Do you throw him in the lineup or not?
That's what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say before I got to it. When you brought up where he was gonna play, I jumped to kind of say where he could play. I do think that it's a very hard ask to have. Hey, Matt McClain, don't play for what has been almost a month. It feels like at this point. And then, oh, by the way, here, we need you at your best here for the next 5 games, and it's win or die. It's like win or go home. But this is the caveat, Nick. Like, if you're not going to, if you're not going to platoon Ellie, it can't get much worse than Ellie. That's my argument. That's the argument I would make. That's the argument I would make. I don't think it could get much worse. Matt McClain has shown to me that he's a good enough baseball player if he's remotely healthy. If they're capable and they think that they can stick him out there, I trust the Reds enough to believe that he's only going out there if he's healthy. And if Matt McClain's healthy, I know maybe I'm overvaluing Matt McClain. I think he's good enough to play immediately. However, I just don't think personally, this is my own opinion, of course, I don't think he's going to be healthy enough to play. I just don't. I think this is Matt McClain having a competitive spirit, really wanting to get back out there. And again, not to bring up other subjects in other sports, but like Joe Burrow, he wants to be out there. But the question becomes, if you're not healthy, how good are you? If Matt McClain's not healthy, he might not be worth the help. It might just be one of those things where it feels good that his name's in the lineup, but if he's not healthy, he might be, not the Matt McClain, like you said, that we get back in June. So I'll say it. I said it once. I said it maybe 2, 3, 4 times. I'll say it one last time before we end this show. There is no help coming. This is who we got, like it or not. Buckle up. Hopefully these guys can start playing better, but there's nobody coming to save us. Nobody. And maybe that's sobering for you. Maybe that's sobering to think about, but that's what I feel, and that's how I think it's going to go, and we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. It doesn't mean the season's over, but this is who we got, man. And they're going to wear that bullpen out. I'm going to tell you right now, David Bell is going to pick his spots, and he is just going to rely on this bullpen to try to win him a game, and he's going to, you can say what you want, and I think this is the right way to go about it. He is going to not forfeit games, but he might just say, you know what, tomorrow, it's a loss. I got nobody in the bullpen. I got a guy starting that probably shouldn't be starting in the big leagues, but I got a chance to win this game today, and I'm going Jabot, Sims, Mole, Diaz, and if I can get through 4 innings of baseball and we got a lead, forget it. We're going all in to win, and maybe I'll get lucky tomorrow and the offense will score 15 runs and we win anyways. That's how he should do it. That's how I expect David Bell to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the Reds got, if there's one thing they got to break on, it's that they have all the off days. 3 off days in the last 7 games. No, 9 games. I mean, you can really pick your spots. I mean, the Reds could even almost go an entire bullpen game. I know they've gone bullpen games, but they've always had like someone that's gone 2 or 3 innings to kind of give them a little bit of length. They may just he may run through 9 innings of Diaz, Sims, Jabot, Cruz, Law, Mole, Farmer, Duarte, like just start to finish if you're coming off an off day or something like that. So,
All right. I know we beat a couple of our own guys down today, and it is part of the deal that we do here. But I do think that, like I said before, this team has a shot. We got a chance. Let's not sit here and act like this is all bad. Okay, they lost a baseball game today. They lost a baseball game. Okay, they won 2 of 3. They went 5-2 in the week. It's been a hell of a week. It's been a hell of a week. So we'll keep it moving. And we'll see if we can't find a way to keep winning more games. However we have to win them, let's just win them.
Let's go.
Any further final parting
Still alive.
thoughts, Nick? All right.
Still alive, still kicking.
All right. The fact that on a loss on a Sunday, this many people watch the show again, I can't tell you how much we thank you. We appreciate you. We're going to find a way. We'll see what happens. We've counted these guys. Some of you. I'm not saying all of you, but certainly some people have counted this team out dead 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 times. But they keep finding a way to kick back, fight back. Last chance to go to the ballpark this week. Not saying you should go. I think people get mad at me when I say that. You can spend your money however you want. Just saying, this is the last time the Reds are going to play in that ballpark, possibly until the postseason, and postseason tickets are not going to be cheap. So the last time, let's just say it like this. This is the last time you can probably get in the ballpark at a pretty affordable price until 2024. So what do you think?
I support it. Yeah, I mean this I don't know how anyone could have watched this team. You can say what you want about ownership or Nick Kroll, whoever else. I don't know how anyone could have watched the players that have played for our favorite baseball team that we root for and think anything less than, wow, these guys have done everything they can to try to will this team to the postseason. And the fact that they're even in this race, yeah, I think they deserve a packed ballpark. I hope they get it at least a couple days this week. I hope they feel the love and support of Cincinnati. Cincinnati likes to pride itself as a good sports town. Well, this is your week to prove it.
I agree. All right. This is it. This is a stretch run, man. This is it. I mean, we've been talking about, there's only 20 games. I go, okay, this is it. Got a week and a half. Take it or leave it. Like it or not. Team's got a chance to win. And if they win, they're in. It's as simple as that. As always, we got some more shows. Chatterbox Bengals on after every single Bengals game. Hopefully they start winning some games here soon so you Bengal fans can be happy. The Chatter, a little funny podcast. You can check it out with Chuck and Houdini. Off the Bench with Trace Fowler until Tom comes back, of course. And as always, you have Chatterbox Reds. Please go download, rate it, and review if you haven't already. Nick does a great job with that podcast. It's out every single damn day, man. Every single damn day. I hope people appreciate that. Not saying you should. If you don't appreciate it, listen. There's a reason it's one of a kind. There's a reason it's one of a kind because it's not easy. It's not easy. But my final parting thoughts are this. Is that Ellie De La Cruz is a stud. He's a stud. If he gets back to being a stud, this team will go to the playoffs. Go Reds.